mind. That was Paul Ritchie's keynote. I was hiding in one of the pictures, like a Where's Waldo skit. So anyway, hi, I'm going to start on that note. I'm Jason Lund. I'm here with Donald Stratton to talk to you all about a designer's guide to buying laptops and running CET Designer. So let's get rolling. So I am the owner of Plaid Anvil Consulting. The name Plaid Anvil, for those of you who don't know, I have a bit of a blacksmithing hobby on the side. So I make everything from fire pokers and advanced woodworking. So I started making wine stoppers on the side. So the plaid sort of goes along with the lumberjack theme. Unfortunately, I found that during COVID, apparently nobody puts a cork in a bottle of wine anymore. They just drink the whole thing. So these are not particularly high demand products. So at least the bottle openers are a big hit. Anyway, I am a technical consultant. I worked here with Donald Stratton since, 2010, 2011, Donald. And I'm excited that Donald at ZTech PC are sponsoring this session so that I can sit here and talk to you guys for the better part of 50 minutes. So let's get into it. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about who I am, because I love to talk about myself. First of all, I've been in the industry for 25 years, in tech in general for 25 years. I spent a full 7 years of that at Target Corporation, working both supporting stores, doing a little bit of light development, data center operations, desktop management, all that fun stuff. Even got to get involved in compliance, which is really not exciting for anybody unless you're really into that sort of self-punishment, credit card numbers, all that stuff. So, but anyway, working at Target, that was a very relevant piece of or at least a skill set to have. I also helped lead the IT department at one of the largest dealers in North America. Multiple locations throughout the country. And I've spent the balance of my career supporting small businesses and as an independent consultant, both to dealerships and other small and mid-sized businesses in my local community. I presented at 10, possibly more. I've kind of lost track, but we'll blame some of the partying that goes with the conference. At least 10 conferences over the course of my career. And I've really had it's been my pleasure to help really hundreds of dealers with their adoption journey to CET Designer. So in addition to the work that I do to help dealers understand how to really incorporate CET Designer, both into their technology and their design practice, I do some Showroom Technology Innovation Center design work. I can also help you potentially incorporate your kind of co-design capabilities into your technology portfolio, whether it's virtual or physically on-site. I can help assess your current IT strategy, maybe the risks that you may have as a dealership, either, again, compliance-wise, risk to security. I've helped more dealers than I care to count dealing with ransomware attacks and things in the last 6 months. They are on the rise, and it's a bad thing. I can also look at your IT department and your service providers. There are a lot of folks out there who maybe aren't familiar with the unique needs of CET Designer and all the things that go into really supporting a design practice at a dealership. So I would love to help understand how your IT department is aligned with your design practice and maybe help them get better aligned if they're not today. I do tech mentoring. I love to work with technicians, maybe those that are new in the industry, those that have moved to this industry from another industry and haven't had the advantage of 10 years of going to conferences and meeting with developers and meeting with designers. I can help them kind of come up to speed on that stuff and also maybe look at the basic IT practices day in and day out at a dealership. While maybe it's not as sometimes I would call glamorous as supporting designers, it is important that we are efficient with our resources in the day-to-day operations of our business, IT, in order to better support the designer's needs, even getting in front of the clients and supporting you, in that role. So anyway, please feel free to reach out to me. I do, as I said, all that fun consulting stuff, but I want to take a moment to let Donald introduce himself. Again, Donald and I have worked together for over a decade, and I'm excited to let him tell you more about his role at ZTech PC.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I've been serving this community since 2011, I believe. And some of you may remember me from Power Notebooks or HID Evolution. Well, the good news is I've been recruited to a company called ZTech PC to be their general manager, and I was delighted to accept the challenge. Basically, we have a 19,000 square foot warehouse with over 20,000 computers and 15,000 accessories. We ship fast. We can custom build and ship within 3 business days, standard, no additional fees. We have similar fast turnaround times on any RMAs that need to be returned for repair. It's just a whole new world of adequate resources to do the job right. We also provide lifetime tech support through various channels, as you can see. We're easy to reach. When you call, 95% of the time, you'll get a technician, a real technician, to answer the phone. And if not, leave a voicemail. The next available technician will reach out to you, usually within the hour, most of the time actually within 15 or 30 minutes. So we're here to serve. Reach out. And Jason, thank you. Take it from here.
It exercised my jaw because I talk fast and we got a lot to cover. So thank you, Donald. Again, it's always a pleasure. So let's get in it. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to talk about preparing for new laptops, and that's going to get in the weeds a little bit about IT's role and design's role in really before buying laptops. How do we work together to support one another? We're going to get a little bit into the minutia, of course, about selecting hardware to run CET Designer, including some specific recommendations, different models that I like that I would recommend you take a look at as well, all under $2,000. We're going to look at specifically some parameters around setting up a laptop to run CET Designer, and really just helping understand how you can better partner with IT to support you. I'm going to give them kind of a cheat sheet of things that help make their jobs and their lives easier, hopefully, as you take this journey together. So let's get in it. So one thing I've noticed being an independent consultant for the last 18 months, is that you can buy the perfect laptop for CET Designer, and it can still be a hot mess. It can still run like garbage. It can still not do what you need it to do, because CET Designer does have some very specific design or configuration requirements that are going to buck what I would call, buck with a B, buck the normal trends that CET sort of support, or excuse me, that IT support people are used to. So follow along here, because it is important that for IT and design to work well together, I think we need to lay the table out with some expectations. So first of all, you don't just throw laptops at designers. It's like any design exercise. When they go to a client, they're not just trucking over whatever furniture you happen to have in the back into the customer site and saying that's going to work for you. We need to understand what the requirements are, and some of those requirements are no longer just technical. Back in the day when we started buying laptops, it was, I guess Paul Richards, you'd recognize something like this from Canada. The old the big bricks. When you used to buy laptops like that, you had very limited choices. You got it in the choice of beige or black, and about 2 configurations. That is no longer the case. We live in an era where you can buy ultralight laptops with all sorts of great features, VR headsets, it slices, it dices. You can do video editing and take people you've worked with for years and put them in a beaver costume in the middle of a keynote address during a conference. All sorts of things you can do with laptops. Sorry, that's an inside joke for the keynote presentation that Paul Richards gave earlier yesterday. But anyway, but we need to understand, what do you designers want? Because it's we are underserving. We're not doing our jobs. We're not asking those questions. So, do you need a 10 keypad? Do you need portability over raw performance? What kind of screen do you need? I mean, there are so many options available to us. We want to really serve your needs. We want to customize the laptop for you, and really, come up with a solution that is not just about performance, but does it look good when you're using it in front of a client? Does it look clunky? Does it look like a sleek piece of design technology? We can address those things, with a few simple questions, I think. We also need to understand what your use cases are. Are you a traveling designer? Are you a furniture rep in the field that's using a single catalog versus multiple catalogs? What other tools are you using? Are you doing a lot of VR production work, video editing and production work, Paul? What else is going on? And really, one thing that I would give Configura a lot of credit for, the very first conference I came steaming into way back in the day, making Swedish chef jokes, was really trying to understand why I was being told to buy $4,000 laptops that were only being used, incrementally. It was the hardware requirements were not clear, and CET or Configura has done an incredible job of actually documenting online exactly what parameters your laptop needs to have to be successful. So if you do nothing else as an IT person, jump on the link and look at it. It's better than AutoCAD's requirements. It's better than Revit's requirements. It's very specific. It uses something called a passmark benchmark score to qualify relative performance between laptop models or laptop configurations. So give that a look. But one thing I would caution a lot of sort of independent tech firms, or folks who are just not familiar with some of these technologies, they are perhaps sometimes inclined to just say, well, you need a design laptop, which means it's got to run Revit and AutoCAD. So I'm just going to go to the catalog from Dell or HP. I'm going to give you this precision laptop. It's going to cost $3,000. And when you put it in front of CET Designer, it's going to run like a $1,500 budget laptop. So it's not a typical application. So you need to understand how it works and what it needs to run, and that's what we're going to talk about. So before we get into the technical specifics, I want to talk about IT strategies. And yes, this is a moment for the IT team, but it's a moment for the design team to understand why I think this is important. So first of all, I hate hearing from designers that they got a laptop that didn't have everything they need on it. It's ridiculous. At minimum, going 20 years back in my career, there was a notebook somewhere, and that notebook probably had a list of things on it that said, okay, if I'm going to build a laptop, I need to put Windows on it. I need to put an antivirus tool, AutoCAD, blah, 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 blah. And there is no reason in this day and age that a designer cannot expect to get a laptop from their IT team that has everything they need on it at a first shot. Maybe it takes a bit of pre-work. Maybe we sit down as a team and say, okay, designers, you need to give me a list of everything you need. IT team, let's compile it into a single master list that says, yep, this is what they all need. Make it the same. That way, if a designer needs to swap laptops, whatever else it is, it's consistent. They want a consistent experience. You want to use your resources efficiently. It's not that hard a process to implement, and you can even automate some of this. So first and foremost, let's be consistent in how we deploy laptops, whether it's a new laptop or replacement laptop. It really isn't that hard. And patching and updating. One of the largest causes of instability and support calls to CET designer or to Configura support is that laptops at dealerships may have different versions of NVIDIA drivers, different versions of Windows. It's a hot, soupy mess. It's not really what a well-managed IT environment should look like. Ideally, all of your design laptops and really all of your laptops in your dealership should be relatively similar. They should have the same operating system, not just Windows 10, but a version of Windows 10 that is the same, the build number. You should have the same NVIDIA drivers. You should have consistent network drivers, all those things. Don't just leave it up to the machines to auto-update themselves. Have some sort of process, even if it's a manual intervention. Maybe once a month you go through, you define a service window where your designer's laptops are available. You go and you level set. There are more, I feel bad, honestly, when I'm dealing with a dealership who the solution to their problem is something as simple as just going in and being consistent with how you manage laptops. So definitely something that I recommend, especially for CET designer, because I've seen many, many stability issues that were simply solved by patching and updating the laptop to current and consistent versions. It is incredibly frustrating for a designer to have a laptop fail and have no idea when they're going to get it replaced. And it is relatively straightforward to institutionalize a hot swap program as an IT leader or an IT person, so that if a laptop fails, you grab a 90% fully configured laptop off the shelf, you grab whatever backup you have of that user's data, you put it on the laptop, you have them log into it remotely, you finish setting it up, and you ship it out to them overnight. And within 24, 48 hours, they have not just a physical piece of hardware that's been repaired, but they have a physical piece of a piece of hardware with all their stuff on it, and they can start designing within, worst case, a few minutes or maybe an hour or two of final configuration, not 3 days or a week of downloading their stuff and rebuilding schemas and all that stuff. There's really no reason that designers should have that experience. And again, I'll talk about some strategies a little bit later on, and some of the financials around buying laptops that I think will make it more interesting, or at least more financially palatable to do something like this. So anyway, designers want quick recovery because they are the centerpiece of a dealer's function. If you don't have a designer, you can't put quotes together. You can't put install drawings together. You can't, they're so critical, and they're the most technically dependent on your services. Give them a consistent experience. I do not like seeing laptops cycled through designer, so 2 designers get new laptops, then they get cascaded to the next designer, down the next designer. It's like you're pushing all your problems down the stack, and you create this really weird sort of environment of inequality among your designers in terms of their ability to do their work effectively. I don't believe in letting laptops just lapse until they fail. They're designed to have a 3, maybe 4-year lifespan. I believe in proactive replacement, meaning you set up ahead of time with your CFO. We need to buy laptops. We're going to buy laptops every year. It's going to be $50 a month in perpetuity. Can we just plan accordingly? And just let them know, hey, we're going to have to write a big check every 3 years, every year, whatever it is. Figure out a process, but ideally replace them all at the same time and replace them every 3 years. And you will have fewer preventable failures. You're not reacting to problems now. You're actually being proactive and getting that designer the most reliable hardware you can before it breaks. They'll appreciate it, and anyone who's really waiting for a bid or a quote from them will also appreciate it as well. Really make it simple for them to report issues to you. Again, this is feedback I've gotten over the course of the last 1.5 years plus all the time I spent in a dealership. So people don't like to have to fill out really, really long, complex forms full of questions or answers they don't necessarily have the answer to. They want to be able to send a quick email saying, hey, I am down. Here's what I know about the problem I have right now. Here's a screenshot or 2. Please help. Don't put a big burden on them as far as contacting or making them wait on hold in a queue, whatever else it is. Make their engagement with you simple. And ideally, be proactive and look through and see what's going on and send them updates. Hey, I got your ticket. I'm working on it. Here you are. Here's what you can expect. Here's a quick workaround, whatever it is. They want to be engaged. And it's really important, especially going through the process of adopting a new piece of technology. If they're not a veteran CET designer user, we're not adding stress to a stressful situation where they're already going through change. Maybe they were trained in college on one set of applications and you're asking them to learn something totally new. Take this off their plate as much as you can. And be proactive. If you've got all these great tickets, now you've got a great base of information to look at and say, hey, how can I start preventing issues instead of just reacting to them? And then finally, make it part of your process and your status with your leadership team. Be accountable for, here's the service level I agreed to if a laptop fails, and here's how compliant I am with that. I got all the laptops that had to go out on time. My team is preventing issues. Here's what we've invested in. Here's what we're going to do the next 3 months. So on and so forth. So again, I think IT can, these practices aren't just for designers, but I think if you can solve for your designers, really the catalyst being we're adopting new laptops for CET Designer, you can improve the experience for your entire dealership and how they interact with IT. Now, on the flip side of it, I've also talked to a lot of IT people at dealerships, and there's some things designers can definitely do to help as we go through the process of getting new laptops and adopting a new tool, be successful. One of them is be available. I know this sounds super oversimplistic, but there's nothing more frustrating for an IT person than, the world's on fire, I'm here solving a problem. Oh, something popped up. I want to get to you right away. And I call and say, well, I don't have time right now. I don't know when I'm going to be available, call me back. And then it goes on and on and on. And the user's frustrated, the IT person's frustrated, both potentially not working as efficiently as possible. So just make sure that, if you're going to report an issue to IT and if they have to schedule time, great, but be available, please. It happens way more often than I hate to admit. So that was a bad sentence. Moving on. The other thing is get as much detail. When you're reporting something to IT, if possible, if we're in the middle of another issue and we can maybe start multitasking and working on your issue, the more data you give us. Screenshots are awesome. They definitely help us. Pictures worth 1,000 words. If you can't describe it, at least I know you guys are good at cutting and pasting graphical images into other mediums. Just cut and paste to an email, that's going to help us a ton. Ideally, start solving your problem even before I can connect to your computer. By the time I get to you, I maybe have a better idea how to solve it and move on. So the other thing I think is really important, I think a lot of dealerships, this is both a relationship thing as well as a practical thing, but be an advocate with the leadership team of the dealership. When the IT team is trying to help solve problems, sometimes we need money. A lot of IT teams are grossly under-resourced at dealerships, in part because they maybe haven't done a great job extending what their value proposition is back into the leadership group. But if you can understand what the financial implications of a change they're making is going to be, and you're a champion for that, that can help them get the funding they need. That's going to improve your life. It's a mutually beneficial thing to be as an advocate for one another in those leadership and budgeting meetings. And understand the bigger picture. IT folks, yes, sometimes they are their own worst enemies, and we want to fight fires, but we don't always want to do the hard work of institutionalizing good practices that prevent issues from happening. It's just a problem. So if you see that they're dealing with multiple things, understand that yes, they're dealing with a financial issue that's going to cause the tax audit not to go out this month. That's a problem. Somebody can get thrown in jail for that. So okay, I can wait an hour for my design issue. Or the world's on fire, I'm going to lose $1 million bid. We need help right now. Help, respect what's going on, but make sure that you advocate for yourself or be reasonable if we don't need an immediate solution. And finally, champions are I work with more great design champions that have made me a better technical person. There's no way around it. If you have a good relationship with your design teams and they are willing to go back to their team and say, hey, instead of you calling IT, let's get a training together and make sure our users are being self-serving as much as possible, then IT now can commit to spending more time being proactive and making your laptops faster or researching solutions to help your showrooms look better in front of clients, cool digital signage application. Whatever it is, if you help free up their time, ultimately you can also hold them accountable for doing more things to help you that aren't just breaking broken laptops or fixing broken laptops, things like that. So anyway, look at the relationship on both sides and how you can work together better. That will help make you better at deploying this application. But let's talk about a couple of misconceptions that I do encounter with IT teams when it comes to sourcing laptops to run CET Designer. I'm going to slow down a bit because I'm guessing I'm losing people with my auctioneer speak here. So design laptops are expensive. We talked a little bit about the cost of laptops. So I figured an $1,800 laptop, and of the laptops I will talk about a little later in the presentation, the price range starts $1,200 and maxes out at $1,900. And that's full VR workstation. You do all the fun things with a laptop. An $1,800 laptop works out to $50 a month over 3 years. So what do you all bill for design? Is it more than $50? So we can save you 1 hour a month. That laptop is probably paid for itself just in saved productivity. Now, you're also running software that I believe at minimum, if I go and get as aggressive as I can, you're at least looking at $250 a month for AutoCAD, Revit, CET Designer, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Office, probably the Adobe suite. Again, go into your operations warehousing. You guys run a lot of software and it costs a lot more than $50 a month. But the single greatest governor to performance beyond the designer themselves is likely the laptop or the network. But again, that's IT's problem to solve for you, isn't it? Anyway, So it's not actually that expensive to buy a really good laptop that's not going to break in the middle of a designer's, trying to get a giant quote out so you guys can win $1 million bid. So again, break it down, look at the numbers maybe a little bit differently, and it might help, get a dealer principal or a design manager or whoever else is really maybe not looking at this and saying, I need to help you and here's what I need to do. Maybe spin the numbers a little bit this way. Service packages, having an extended warranty is great. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of IT folks use it as a bit of a crutch because they haven't thought through what happens after a laptop is fixed in the field. So what I'm talking about is you buy a laptop that's got 3-year platinum, you go to, Dell or HP and you buy, there's all kinds of crazy warranties. I threw my laptop down a flight of stairs. I'm getting a free new laptop, for $1,200 up front. There's all sorts of stuff you can buy up front. And the problem is that is going to get you a working laptop. What that's not going to get you is a laptop that can run design applications and get your designer back up and working again. So remember, a warranty is only as good as, is only going to get the laptop running in, no matter how good the SWAT team that flies through the window with a new laptop, sets you up and runs back out the door is, it's still not getting your designer up and running. So don't be overly dependent on service packages. In fact, I would argue if I had the choice between, if I had a choice between buying an extended warranty and buying more laptops to the tune of 10 or 20% more than I thought I needed, I will always buy more laptops. And for 12 years, that's how I managed the entire inventory of the dealership that I managed, or the dealership IT department that I managed, to the tune of over 1,000 laptops in that 12 years. So take it or leave it, but my experience is that I can do a far better job providing a great experience for the designers if I depot hardware and don't depend on those warranties. So this can also help you from a cost standpoint, and again, from a quality of support standpoint. Finally, professional laptops, gaming laptops, this comes up all the time. The fact is, corporate style, I worked under purchasing contracts for many years at Target. I bought nothing but Dell. Dell was good to me. We way overpaid for what we were getting because we were buying for things that had management, trusted, platform management tools that Target used that I can't afford to use at a dealership. There was a consistency that I could buy the same laptop, from Dell over the course of like 12 months. Great. The problem is I'm not buying multiple. If you have a buying program in place where you buy them all at once, you don't need to worry about being able to buy the laptops over the course of time. You buy the laptops you need at once, you buy some extras, you deploy them and go. Gaming laptops are fascinating because gamers are really, really rough on manufacturers. If they don't like something, they will get on all forms of social media. They will dox you, whatever else it is. When they don't like something, when they have a bad experience, they yell and scream and make noise about it. So gaming laptops tend to be really, really well built. They're very durable. They're cost effective, and it just so happens they're running the actual hardware that Configura recommends to run CET Designer effectively. Workstation laptops are good. There's nothing wrong with them. They're very well built as well. They're really designed for CAD and Revit and other applications to run efficiently. They are less efficient for the dollars than a gaming laptop to run CET Designer. So you can make some fairly minor tweaks to your support process to support gaming hardware in a dealership and will not have issues with it over time. Again, I'm going to rely on 12 years of experience recommending that. But I'm certainly open to discussion if somebody wants to take that up with me after the fact. So what's new in 2020? First of all, AMD, for the first time in over a decade, has become a viable choice for processors in laptops that run CET Designer. What that means is for the same money as an equivalent Intel processor, price for price, you're going to get a faster, cooler running laptop, or excuse me, running CPU. I misworded that, so I'm just going to carry on through the recording here. It's a really exciting change for us because what that means is now Intel is going to be forced to be more competitive, which means they will produce cooler, faster, less expensive processors. So overall for the industry, what this means is today you buy an AMD-based processor, which has been tested and verified as working compatible with Configura. You get a better, faster, cooler laptop now, and likely Intel will also offer the same thing over time. So this is really cool. This is exciting. I love competition as it's going to help us get a better value. And if anybody out there is buying desktops, again, no offense, but I think it's crazy. There are some folks I know that have tried to make their designers remote desktop into a laptop inside of the dealership during COVID as a temporary solution until you got laptops. I get it. It's been 6 months. The laptops, you can buy whatever you need right now. There were some shortages at one point, but like toilet paper, we got this figured out. You should be working on a laptop. And if you're not, then, again, reach out to me. I'd love to help you get there and help you with the financial funding model if you need it. What else is cool, the other thing that I'm really excited about is USB docking stations. So I talked about this a bit last year if you came to my presentation. I would say at this point, most of the laptops that couldn't support this are pretty much working their way out of the market, but you can now buy a $100 docking station that you can hide inside of your home office, your work office. You have a single cable up to your laptop that can connect your monitors without losing performance. USB docking station. It used to be that we had to make a choice. If you bought a professional laptop, you could also pay a bunch of extra money for a docking station that you just clicked your laptop into. All your stuff was connected. It was great. Nowadays, you can actually just buy a generic laptop docking station for $100. Works with every laptop I'm going to recommend to you, and it'll let you run your monitors at full speed without crashing, without causing CET to malfunction, but also can charge your laptop. So really slick single cable solution. The caveat being most of the design laptops we're going to look at are going to just require a little more power than USB can provide. So you may have 2 cable connections unless you buy a lower power model, which again, I'll talk about. Webcams, headsets, lighting, and actually acoustical treatments inside of the spaces in which we're working are not just an office problem anymore. Make sure that as you're looking at laptop budgets, I have used an external webcam pretty much all of COVID. The installed webcam in almost every laptop I've worked with sucks. They don't look good. They're bad with lights. The microphones are also fairly terrible. So go ahead and budget for a good headset, a good webcam if you haven't already, and think about lighting. At the moment, I'm using a Ryobi battery-powered shop light to backlight my office because when I'm on a presentation, when my face is like totally washed out and weird looking, which it may still be, sorry. Anyway, it's a problem. It doesn't look professional, and really this is how your design team is going to market for your dealership right now. So you want to give them a professional working environment that takes into account some of the considerations you would also apply to workspace. So just something to think about when you're sourcing laptops. Also think about the other stuff that goes into a good experience. Working home over internet connections versus an office network. I'm going to hit this in the very last slide, but it is a huge change. And it can have some pretty significant performance implications for your designers. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, but if you haven't solved for this, this is where designers are now having to source up on their desktop and then manually copy them back and forth, and it screws with autosave, and there's all sorts of stuff. So I'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later. Finally, first thing, if you've not Googled the words Echo Dome in reference to Falk-Built, you are missing out on one of the most interesting technical innovations that is going to push all of us. If you don't have access to Falk-Built products, which very few of us do, you're going to be competing with them out there in the marketplace. And they have a very interesting collaborative VR experience available that's coming online right now. So Ulio is a great alternative that most dealerships, regardless of what your manufacturing line have out there. Echo Dome is a really great solution for those of you in the Falk-Built world. I believe ICE has a good VR module. CET Designer has a great VR module, but keeping in mind that a lot of us, unless we're being forced to do so, really like Gillette needs to make a 7-blade razor to make that 6-blade razor better, we're being forced to go into offices sometimes because that's what we sell. But I think it is also important to learn how to showroom without space. So how can we use technology to extend the value proposition of our dealership into our clients' homes as well, and talk about their workspaces and how we can innovate as dealerships and help them. So anyway, just that's a big deal. And I wouldn't say that I have a silver bullet solution to say, just do this, it'll make everything better. But be aware of what's going on in the marketplace today. Again, Echo Dome is going to be very disruptive compared to a lot of other specification and design tools that we have all seen. And be prepared to use it or compete with it. And it will be something that I'm going to build into the requirements for the laptops that I recommend to you going forward. So here we go, recommended specs. So there's actually 3 lanes of specifications for laptops that run CET Designer. The minimum spec is garbage, no offense. It's not worth even talking about. So I'm not even going to talk about it. It's done. What you want to get into at minimum is a recommended spec laptop. So this is where I would say when you're somebody who's going out in the field and working with a couple of catalogs, I know some of our Configura partner trainers use laptops like this. I personally use one. Donald has one like this. If you're not a super power user and you want something small and portable and light, this is probably in your lane. Or you want something that's relatively budget focused, you can get in the door, run CET Designer without as large an investment as a VR performance laptop. The delta being somewhere honestly between $300 and $600. Anyway, quad core to 6-core processor, 16 gigabytes of memory. Memory is sort of where it's the short-term memory in your computer where it stores stuff while you're working on it. The hard drive, the storage, the solid state storage that you're dealing with, that is where all your stuff gets stored permanently, your files, your programs, Windows, etc. If anybody, do not buy anything with the letters RPM after it. Nobody should be buying rotational storage. I mean, we're talking about a technology that harkens back to record players. Yeah, it's not a good technology for design. It's slow. In fact, Configura recommends against installing catalogs on a rotational hard drive anymore. So remove it from consideration. Do not buy a small solid state drive in a large rotational hard drive. It's a bad approach. Solid state's not that expensive. I'm done talking about it. Anyway, a 14 to 17 inch display is good. You typically are not going to get a 10 key on your keyboard unless you buy a 17 inch laptop. So be mindful of that. Intel branded Wi-Fi is my favorite. I've had great luck with it. I've run a dealership that primarily, in fact, only used wireless connections in their offices for their designers. So it works. You don't need to have wired connections. That's a whole different discussion about saving money in showroom remodels, but we'll save that for another another conversation. I do recommend Windows 10 Professional, not Windows 10 Home to everybody. It's actually required by Revit and a number of other applications. And if you are anything but a absolutely independent vendor rep that doesn't join, in fact, I'm one of them, and I don't join a domain to do my work, so I don't need it, but I still install Windows Professional just for that reason. So just anticipate if you buy a laptop that comes with Windows Professional or Windows Home, you're going to need to spend 100 to 150 bucks to upgrade that. If you're going performance, meaning you're going to do potentially VR stuff, you're a production designer doing major reconfigurations on floor plans, things like that. This is going to be a majority of your designers. You need to bump up to a 6 to 8 core processor. You're probably going to want to look at 32 gigs of memory. You definitely want a terabyte, which is 1,000 gigabytes of storage. More than that is actually fine. You're going to want to look at a GeForce 1660 or faster process or graphics card in that laptop. The difference, Configura does not use the advanced features of the RTX versus GTX NVIDIA cards. So a 1660 versus a 2060 graphics card in Configura or a CET designer, it's roughly a 10% difference. So the 2060 being slightly faster. But for our purposes, either of those cards is probably just fine. Again, 14 to 17 inch display, Intel Wi-Fi 6, I believe is the current flavor, Windows 10 Pro, etc. So let's hit in some specific examples of laptops with these features after I pause for a short drink, so I slow down. Okay, moving on. So, oh, and I did forget one slide. So thermal throttling, this is important. And it's important because most of us don't realize that many of our laptops are today running below their optimal performance levels because they are overheating. Instead of self-destructing in a ball of glorious fire, they instead just slow down. Now that's a problem because CET Designer, when you're rendering, will run a laptop at 100%, which means it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter until it says, oh wait, I need to slow down to keep the temperatures down. So what you're seeing in this graph is a laptop, where it is hitting the peak of, it's hitting the heat maximum and slowing down. That's bad. That means your renderings take longer than they should. Sometimes renderings will fail. It means just your laptop sounds like a hairdryer, and when you're on a set of headphones or whatever else it is, that can be a really distracting background sound. And almost every manufacturer that's producing what I would call normal small and light laptops that designers use, Dell, MSI, HP, Lenovo, etc., are using an adequate cooling solution, so they're depending on thermal throttling more than they should. So one nice high point here is Asus actually provides an upgraded thermal solution in all of their laptops, the ROG, Republic of Gaming, whatever it's marketing, hoo-ha. Anyway, they include that, which is nice because it's about a $70 upgrade, but it's not something that you can do easily yourself. In fact, getting inside of any of these laptops as an IT person who goes ripping through hardware all the time, it's not something I would recommend any dealer IT person do, period. It's a bad use of your time. You can void warranties. You can actually cause an electrical short and blow up the whole laptop. Not good. So I believe ZTech PC will actually fully, in fact, I don't think, I know, ZTech PC will fully install and warranty a thermal upgrade to any laptop you have them look at. So not only can they can customize the configuration if you have a specific requirement you can't find on the menu, you can special order, including thermal upgrades, which means your laptop's going to run quieter, it's going to run cooler, and your IT guy or IT gal is not going to have to go ripping inside the chassis to figure out how to install electrically conductive thermal paste. It's not cool, and it doesn't sound any more fun than. Anyway, moving on. So the MSI Prestige 14 or 15, this is the laptop that I personally use. This is a laptop I've recommended to multiple vendor reps, or excuse me, manufacturer reps who make it out in the field. They maybe have 1 or 2 extensions installed at one time. They're super portable. We're under 3 pounds. We're talking like iPad Generation 1 light laptops. They run a relatively decent level of performance. We're not, we're tickling at that recommended spec. So this is not good if you're doing full floor plates of furniture, but they're under 1,200 bucks. They actually will charge from a USB docking station. So I actually only have a single cable connected to my laptop. Everything else is hidden away. The clutter is gone. It's really nice just in terms of desk organization. I don't have a spaghetti of cables coming out both sides of my laptop. It's a little bit limited on storage out of the box. I could upgrade that, but again, for what I'm doing, I don't need a lot of extensions stored on there. So it's a great option for an occasional user, and so on and so forth. The Lenovo Legion at 1,300 bucks is probably one of the best values in terms of a dealer design laptop that you can buy that's also from a major brand name first tier manufacturer. You're talking 4.6 pounds, good performance. GeForce 1660 Ti will put you into the performance / VR capability. 1,300 bucks well configured, which means you're getting Windows 10 Pro and 16 gigabytes of memory with that. So I think it's a really good option. And again, it's a name brand that a lot of people recognize. Asus is offering those AMD processors I talked about. So for about $1,500, you're getting a laptop that's also about 4.6 pounds, a Ryzen processor, a GeForce 2060, which is a step up, about 10% faster than the 1660. What you don't get is an onboard webcam. So I don't care for onboard webcams. I tend to use an external if I can. So not a huge deal to me, but it's something you should be aware of if you're looking at those laptops. They're very power efficient and very battery efficient because of that AMD processor. They are limited, practically speaking, to a 16 gig memory option. If you add more than that, you actually put the machine into single channel memory mode, which is a very bad thing for AMD Ryzen processors. So it's a specific, I would call it a generation 1 laptop concern. It's not a concern if you only need 16 gigs of memory, which a vast majority of you do. So I don't consider this a showstopper. I still recommend the laptop, but it's something that you as an IT person recommending a laptop to or selecting a laptop for your design team might want to be aware of. And it does come with a factory installed thermal upgrade already. So they're going to run quieter and cooler than the other options we're looking at. I've recommended an MSI, it was called the P65. It was a Creator Series laptop. This to me, right down the middle of the road. You get a 3-year included warranty, which is nice. Good performance. You're back to the 1660 Ti and Intel processor. Decent weight, 4.6 pounds, very reasonable to carry all over the place. It's just not as battery efficient, doesn't have that cool AMD Ryzen processor in it, but this is a very good option. I probably have seen more dealers buy a laptop like this one than any other model I will or have talked about so far. So definitely a good choice. This Asus Zephyrus laptop, this geeks me out. This is a really interesting design. First of all, it's almost as light as the very first laptop I talked about. So it's under 4 pounds. So almost a pound lighter than the last two I recommended, and probably a pound lighter than what most of you have today. You're getting great performance combined. You're getting the fastest AMD Ryzen processor you can and a GeForce 2060 card. You're at $1,800, so you're not a huge jump in budget price, but again, no webcam, 16 gigs memory max, super power efficient, cool running with great battery life, and you do get that thermal upgrade installed out of the box. Another laptop I'm really excited about is the HP Envy 15. So 4.75 pounds is literally 0.15 pounds heavier than the two of the previous laptops I talked about. So it's right in line with what most designers are willing to carry. You get great performance in that GeForce 2060 card. It's $1,900. But the spec sheet includes 32 gigs of memory in that configuration and a full terabyte of storage, as well as Windows 10 Professional, a 4K display, which is also a touchscreen. So I like this laptop a lot. I've deployed a number of HP laptops in dealerships before. It's a brand people like and they trust. And I think it's something that you could actually use for a VR application in your showroom if you want to do anything from a Beat Saber kind of fun thing, as well as using it for design. And not that everyone wants to share a headset these days. Okay, that's probably a bad idea with COVID. But when we get to the new normal, this is an option. So anyway, if you're going to do VR, this is a great option as well. And you're still under that $2,000 price point. Finally, we are looking at what will become, I think, probably the best value in laptops for CET Designer, but they're not available until the end of this year, early next. And that is the MSI Creator 15M and 17M. So you're getting that same portability that we got in the geeked out Asus I talked about a few minutes ago, but you're getting the same 2060 graphics card. So not quite as fast on the CPU side, not the Intel. You're getting Intel instead of AMD, but it's $1,500. So it's $300 less. Again, I don't know all the details because it hasn't actually been released yet, but pre-research says this is going to be a really good potential option at that $1,500 price point. And you can go either 15 or 17 inch. So the size of the screen and the size of the keyboard are going to go up or down for the same price. So really cool option, I think. Finally, the docking station. So I've talked a bit about this docking station. Short and sweet, $99. It's one cable to your laptop. It'll extend your displays so you can have 3 monitors connected to this docking station. There is no performance penalty on the laptop because it's a wire connection, not a sort of pass-through software geekiness that a lot of USB hubs used to use. $99 on Amazon. It slices, it dices. It's available today. Supplies are limited. Order now. It's a good option. Take it or leave it. Amazon does a good job, I think, getting you stuff in like 3 days. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, it might cost you more. But this is a good option. I've used this over. Let's see, I'm going on month 6 with one of these. Really happy with it. So there's a bunch of different brands that offer very similar options. This is one I've tested, but the docking station dilemma to me just died here. This is a great option. All right, the next few slides, I'm not going to go through in detail. I'm going to talk quickly, should I say faster, quickly? Anyway, faster than before, because this is really where the IT person needs to get in and do some reading. So what I'm going to give you is this presentation in a PDF or in a original PowerPoint form that will show you how to configure the NVIDIA graphics card when you're using CET Designer. It's going to show you how to disable or just advise you to disable the anemic utility, which causes stability issues with CET Designer, as well as the Killer Networks wireless option. It's going to show you all the antivirus, anti-malware exceptions that need to be implemented on the laptop when you build it for your designer, as well as some guidance on WebRoot and Sophos solutions specifically. It's going to show you all the network firewall whitelists and blacklists you need to implement, whitelists in this case, you need to implement for CET Designer to run correctly. This is probably the most, if you get nothing else from this presentation, take this slide and run with it, because what this is going to show you is when you migrate a designer from one laptop to another, how to migrate not only their personal preferences, their schemas, all this, the favorites, all the things they need to jump over to a new laptop with a minimal amount of downtime, but how to move their catalogs. And when you're talking about people working on home internet connections and downloading gigabytes and gigabytes of catalog data, this will save your design teams hours every time they move hardware. So in the event of a failure, I might recommend that you back up at least the CET documents folder on the left there, but this has saved a lot of people a lot of time. And unfortunately, I did have a designer who I gave the slide to, their IT person, they didn't use it, and they are still rebuilding their schemas, their favorites, all the things they spent years building as they use CET Designer. So this is really important information. Please, please pass the slide along. And as I'm getting towards the end of our time here, and I will have a bit of time for Q&A because this is my last slide. So sorry for going so fast, but I want to leave a little QA time. I know this is a crazy group, and I'm looking forward to talking to a few of you. So I do want to talk about home internet speed for a moment, because this has been a real interesting challenge for all of us to deal with. Because, for example, I right now have 3 kids doing remote learning on the same internet connection I'm trying to run a Zoom meeting on. And it can very quickly become a problem because they're also doing video, and they're doing, they're sending files and pictures of art projects they're doing up. And a home internet connection is not the same as your office internet. First of all, most office internet connections are fiber-based. They're what's called synchronous. So you have say it's a 100 meg connection. That means you have 100 meg down and 100 meg going back up, which is great. So you can send the files as fast as you receive them. Your average home internet connection is, you say you're on Xfinity, you're getting Xfinity Blast. You get 250 megs downstream, and you get all this great stuff. And when you go to send a file up, it's going like 5 meg, not 250, it's 5. So it's what's called an asynchronous connection. The problem is a lot of what you as designers do involves sending files from your laptop back somewhere. So for example, you're working on a file, you need to send it back up to your file storage location. You're doing a Zoom meeting. Your autosave is kicking off in CET Designer, which we're going to hit on here in just a minute. It can be a real problem. So I've recommended to everyone I've talked to, if you have the choice, you can often move to a small business internet service at home, which will almost always result in a faster upload choice. I found at home here personally, I was able to double and possibly triple my upload speeds, which has a huge benefit for me sending out camera information over Zoom meetings. I can upload files faster, et cetera, et cetera. It also means my autosave in CET Designer is not clogging up trying to send up autosave, and because your internet connection is not fast enough. So if you have the choice, I recommend business class internet service for a couple of reasons. A, faster upload speeds. B, that you have a higher service level, meaning if you have a call, you have a much shorter window that they're going to show up at your house. I know all of you love it when they say, hey, Comcast will be out. We need a window between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. If you just go ahead and be there at home all day, that would be great. They usually give you 2 hours. And the third thing they give you is typically they remove the internet bandwidth download cap. So most of you are not dealing with this right now because all the providers I'm aware of have stopped using their data cap. But if you have a consumer internet-based solution, you almost always have a data cap in place. And as soon as they choose to eliminate it, you are likely going to get hit with overages. So you're going to get a message. It's going to actually stop your internet connection in some cases and say, hey, you've exceeded your terabyte of whatever per month. We need $50. So home business internet typically does not have that limitation. So if you're looking at the big picture, I can help you perform this for your specific situation, but it almost always makes financial sense, especially if a dealer is reimbursing you, to go to a small business internet connection over your typical broadband, and you will likely benefit not only as a home-based worker, but anyone else in the household using your internet connection will benefit as well. And go back 2 slides here. I talked about the autosave paradox. What I want to recommend to you is go in and look at your configure autosave settings. So I believe the default was 9 autosaves. So that means 9 times an hour, it's trying to send whatever you're working on back up to wherever you save your files. And this can be problematic if your internet connection is not that fast, because sometimes the previous autosave does not complete copying its stuff before the next one kicks in. If you want a quick bit of math to figure out what the right number is, I would say 2 to 3. So if you take the 60 minutes in an hour, divide it by 3, every 20 minutes, you're going to get an autosave. I don't know that many designers need more than that. You can probably tolerate if something happens, a design crashes, you can survive a 20-minute loss of data. If not, you can increase the frequency of your autosave. The problem is if you set it too frequently, the autosave never finishes, and so you actually are not getting any autosaves completed, and you can actually lose more work. So setting your autosave frequency in CET too high can be very negative. It could be a bad thing. So I recommend 2 to 3, unless you have a really, really fast home internet connection. So much talking, time to start listening. So last slide here. If you want to reach out to either Donald or myself, this is our contact information. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the chat and QA slide and see what's going on. So I'm going to start with the QA section, and I'm just going to go top to bottom here. So I see Tina Lee has asked a question, Echo Dome versus Ulio. Echo Dome is a specific Falk-built only product. So again, a very small percentage of dealers in the country have access to this. It's a new technology. The reason I think it's important is it's a new approach to doing collaborative design incorporating VR. So it is only available for Falk-built products and Falk-built dealers. So not to be concerned there, unless you're competing with them. I would recommend Ulio as an alternative that works well with CET Designer. It's an agnostic product, so you can pretty much use it with whatever you like. It's a good solution. But the thing that's really interesting about Echo Dome is it integrates directly into the design tool. So a designer can have their design tool open and a participant can be on their iPad looking at the drawing in real time as they're changing things. So it's a slick solution. Be aware of it, either again as someone who can use it or someone who's going to compete against it. So I think I actually hit that. And I'm sorry, so to answer anonymous attendee's question, the specification process it is a spec tool. It's a plugin for Revit that allows the social VR experience. But right now it is designed only for Falk-built. So again, I think of it more as something to look at as an industry trend and something you may in limited case run into as a competitive product or something you get to use. And Paul Ritchie's has a question. So he wanted me to talk a bit about preloaded software that has been recognized as causing issues with CET Designer. Killer Networks is definitely one of them. Nahimic. Quick segue on what these two things do. Nahimic is a tool designed to give 3D positional audio effects for gamers. It has zero value to a furniture designer, so I just disable it. It's a service that gets installed with, unfortunately, it gets automatically installed in many laptops, so you have to have it disabled as a service. It is sometimes an ongoing fight. If you look at the IT admin and license administrators forum or briefcase at Configura, this topic does come up more often than not. So it is somewhat of a running battle to keep it not running, but it's there. Killer's the other one. I wouldn't say that I have any other specific applications that at this moment I'm aware of causing conflicts with CET Designer, but I do keep an eye on that license admin and IT administrators briefcase at Configura. It is very useful for identifying these trends. In terms of dealer networks and latency problems, get the fastest network you can is solution number one. There are some, OneDrive, for example, with Microsoft will effectively allow you to have a folder on your laptop that is cached. It'll store your data there and then trickle it up to wherever you have your OneDrive account or whatever stored. There are other file save solutions. It's a fairly nuanced, it's a problem we have to solve. For example, OneDrive is not really suitable for large-scale deployment at dealerships. You'd better off using a different file storage solution, but things like Microsoft Azure or Amazon Cloud Services have some other cost implications you need to be aware of. It's no longer just you pay a monthly fee for the amount of capacity you're using. They now charge you for reading listing files, writing files. You could have a huge bill show up that you have no control over. So the file problem is still one we're solving. A lot of the low-tech, easy solution is work on the file on your desktop and then copy it yourself. Make a standard checklist like I've asked the IT folks to do in building laptops. Work on the file, copy it back if you have to, if you're on a slow internet connection. Really the best solution is to buffer yourself from the network as much as possible, which means use the files you're working on locally and then either manually or using a tool or solution, trickle those files back to your network storage solution as your internet bandwidth allows for. But it is a ugly, nuanced problem to solve, and it is somewhat unique per dealer. And per user at home. Paul, does that at least get down the road of answering your question?
Let me jump in and add a little something. As it goes to Nahimic and Killer, if when you're placing your order, assuming you're placing your order with us, if you make that request, we will not install those things, so you don't have to worry about it. But because they're standard utilities, we do need to have that request, and then we'll just make sure you get it clean.
Perfect. So that's really, really useful. Sorry, and there was a question about bandwidth that also popped up. Where'd it go?
Yep, I
So is it?
think,
Yeah.
It probably went out of.
no, I
No,
think
actually,
someone
Ran
moved
out
it
of
to
time,
answer
huh?
it real quick. Nope.
that's my
Let me,
fault.
okay, I can
Oh, yes.
find it.
And Paul's got a great question about MSI quality, which I will also talk about, and I'll let Donald chime in as well. So
A lot of our-
I'm sorry,
Go
let
ahead.
me get to so Tamara Campbell asked a question about internet bandwidth speeds recommendations. So the short version is I would say 100 meg down, 10 meg up, if you can get it. That's, to me, that's really the minimum. If you're working in an environment where you have other people on the same network, it's going to be really hard to function below that. A lot of people are living with less than that. The typical home internet speeds I've seen from Comcast, for example, are like 150 to 200 megs down and 5 up. So it's that second number, it's that upload speed you want to look for. So I recommend a minimum 10 meg upload speed if you can get it. And if it's affordable to jump to the next tier, get 15, 25. Ideally get fiber, but most of us don't have access to fiber in our homes. I think 10 is a good starting point on the upload side. I almost don't care what the download speed is because they're almost always 10 times faster than the upload. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. MSI quality. My own personal take, Paul, I think that MSI had some missteps in 2 generations ago related to their hinge quality. And I know that I heard from a lot of folks about it when I was supporting dealership, when I was with Atmosphere Commercial Interiors / Target Commercial Interiors, we had a number of them that were bending and torquing and doing other weird things. That was sort of the jump from the original MSI lightweight GS60 laptop to their GS, I think 62, 63 series. And Donald, I believe we both observed that same trend. My observation is the GS65 and newer laptops have been, and those have been out for 2 or 3 years. I think, in fact, they're got to be approaching 3 years now. Those have been really good. The chassis is better reinforced. The hinges have been better. I don't like MSI support at all. Direct, they suck. If I bought in fact, if you buy an MSI laptop from Amazon or MSI directly, it's not good. If you buy an MSI laptop from a reseller like from ZTech PC, sorry, Donald, they have great support, and that's the way to go for sure. So I would not buy an MSI laptop from anyone but Donald, because they have really built a support structure to really cover where MSI is weak. But I do not have any concerns having personally bought and used MSI laptops, recommending them to my dealer clients. Donald, do you have anything to add?
You've hit the nail on the head. Those were the biggest issues with the MSI quality. With the GS75 series, for example, which is very popular with designers. Thin and light, 17-inch, the size of a small 15. Anyway, that was totally redesigned. And we had one of our largest Configura accounts swear off of MSI. And we said, well, let me send you this. And so I did, said, give it to your toughest user and use it for 30 days. Let me know what you think. And about 3 weeks later, he placed an order for another 20 pieces, said, yep, that's my answer. So when it comes to quality, MSI today is as good as virtually anybody out there, but it is important that you buy it from a reseller that properly prepares it, including thermal upgrades. And you'll find that our RMA tech support on them is just very low. They're very good.
All right, I think we have about 5 minutes, so I want to jump in. There's a couple of, Lee, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get these in the right order that they were received, right? Lee is asking about curved widescreen monitors replacing dual or triple monitor setups. Donald and I actually answered this question in the last session, so Donald, I'm going to paraphrase for both of us. We both are fans of individual displays. I like to be able to drag and pin things to a separate screen. There's nothing wrong with a ultra wide display. Sometimes the ultra wide that came out initially were not equivalent to 2 widescreen monitors side by side. So it really boils down to a matter of personal preference and design aesthetic in the environment you're using the monitor as much as anything else. So I do believe there were some early issues with scaling on anything more than a 1080p high definition monitor that have been resolved since. So the ultra wide screen / 4K question, I believe, has been addressed with CET Designer has been optimized for the right kind of screen scaling. So there's really no technical reason to avoid it. It's more a preference.
My take on that is trying to do 2 windows in a widescreen is very awkward and cumbersome. You're constantly having to size them, move them around, that kind of thing. If you're only using a single screen, of course, you can use the snap to side to split the screen in half, but still it's more awkward than using multiple screens. And like I said in the last section, I actually use 3 screens, not counting my laptop. My laptop is actually behind one of my side screens. I use a 32-inch curved Samsung in the middle, and then 2 24-inch on the wings. I don't use 32-inch on the wings because they're just too wide, and you end up doing this and craning your neck to see that extra few inches. But with 24 inches on the side, it's just a quick turn, and they work real well.
Boot camp parallels. I believe I can verify this answer. I was talking to one of the Configura QA folks, and they indicated they do not recommend or support boot camp parallels. CET Designer is not the underlying 3D engine. I would say is not the most advanced, not the most. It doesn't deal with virtualization as well as maybe some others. So I know that it really likes direct hardware access. I know. I will confirm that answer. But the last conversation I had with their QA department was they did not like or did not support parallels or boot camp. Although I believe you can dual boot into Windows. The trick there is that the graphics hardware itself. I'm sorry. So one is virtualization. One is booting into multiple operating systems at a hardware level. It fundamentally falls back to, does the hardware itself still meet the requirements of CET Designer? I haven't personally tested. I worked with Apple to try and actually customize a Mac solution for running CET Designer when I was with Atmosphere, and I kind of got shot down because by the time I added up all the costs and the relatively low level of hardware at the time that was available compared to what I could buy from MSI or Dell or whatever, it just didn't make financial sense. But yeah, Graham, let me modernize my thinking on this because I haven't looked into it in at least 2 years. So if you want to email me, shoot me that question as well, and I will look into it further. Corporate IT standard. If I were a designer or someone at a large manufacturer who was buying off of a corporate contract and was dealing with Dell Standard Precision laptops, do you have a screwdriver? The problem is I don't know that once you bought the laptop, there's any easy way to upgrade the thermal characteristics of it. It is in part by design. They overcool those laptops. It's also a matter of if you go digging around inside that laptop and apply thermal paste to the wrong place, you can kill it. So yeah, I mean, I guess, I can come up to Canada and we can talk about it and we can work on it there, but there's not a really good kind of corporate standard ordering way of getting a thermal upgrade installed in a laptop. At that point, you're probably looking at a cooling pad that goes underneath the laptop to improve it there. So the fan on the cooling pad tends to run slower than the fans inside the laptop. Bigger fans move more air at a lower audible threshold, I guess. That's not the right way to describe it, but it's quieter. So you may be able to quiet down. And it looks like my room buddy's about somebody to shut up, so I'm going to do that.
Let me pipe in here if I can.
Oh, you got about 10 seconds.
Okay. Undervolting, which is almost impossible on most laptops. Thermal compound is critical. The only other way to cool a standard machine is with a cooling pad, and they're not that effective.
Perfect.
The real answer is proper thermal materials application, which does not come standard with laptops from almost all manufacturers.
Great. Okay, you guys, I hate to cut you off, but it is that time. And so for all the attendees, if you guys want to go back to the main hall, and there is one wrap-up video before the day ends. But thank you so much, Jason and Donald. You guys did an awesome job.